Hey there guys, so I want to thank you for taking the time to check out today's video. Of course, I do really appreciate it, and I always enjoy going over the topics that I go over in these videos. If there is anything that you guys would like me to discuss in the future, feel free to let me know. And also, I do want to mention that I apologize if I miss completely checking out all of your comments. I do try to make sure to look over all of the comments that you guys have shared, and sometimes I don't get to them right away. I'm usually juggling a bunch of things all at once, so I do try to get back to them when I can. So I do again appreciate you guys for everything that you share in the comments. It does really mean a lot, and I can't thank you enough for watching these videos and again sharing your thoughts. So in this video, what I want to discuss is really going over the barriers that come with being in a relationship when you're gay and how difficult that can be, even if you're out and open. And this is something that I've really noticed throughout the entirety of my journey, and I feel like you guys will relate to it in a lot of ways. But I don't really think that a lot of people understand how difficult it can be to be in a relationship when you're gay, because there's more barriers that we have to face versus somebody who is straight. There's a whole different dichotomy that comes with basically being ourselves, and a lot of it can come with the sort of challenges with family, as well as the challenges that we have to face with whether the person that we're dating is out and open, or if they are not, they're kind of not really on the down low, but I guess if they're the sort of more cautious with being out and open. There's a lot of these different barriers that I think are very challenging to deal with, and I've noticed this many times in my own journey. Even if I've been out and open, it's still hard for somebody else. And so I just think this is an interesting concept that I think a lot of people don't realize how much it can really create this impact. And I think it's something that we really need to be aware of and discuss in a lot of ways, because I think the more that we have understanding on, how to face relationships and how to really connect with each other really makes a difference. One of the biggest barriers I've noticed a lot in my own journey of being out and open is especially the fact of not being able to really be honest and open with my family as I wish I could. Whenever I was dating not too long ago, one thing that was very difficult is that I couldn't really mention to my family or, my parents that I was seeing someone. And that's very hard. It's very hard to have to feel like you can't really tell them what you want to tell them, and that it's something that you kind of have to keep to yourself. That's one of the hardest things I think that comes with it, is that you it's like a lot of us want to be honest, and we want to be open, and we want to be able to express that we're with somebody else, but it doesn't align with, what our family's views are, or just us being cautious on how they are going to interpret the person that we're seeing, or how there's just so many different things. It's completely different than for somebody who is straight, where usually your family is going to ask you who you're with, or they're going to ask, how long you've been with this person. But it's not that same way when it comes to, especially in particular for my own journey. I don't know if anybody else has a journey where it's a little bit easier, but for my own journey, it's like there's this huge wall in between what I can express on this person that I'm talking to, and it's just very challenging. I think that's the hardest part, and I don't think a lot of people realize how hard that is, how there's all of these different barriers, and a lot of people wonder, how can it be a choice when you have to go over all of these different challenges of balancing your relationship, and at the same time having to worry about your family, having to worry about what their perspective is going to be, having to worry about too, like, just like the fact of going on a date with somebody in public. Like, you can't really express feelings for them as you could, like, if like a straight couple is going out on a date. There's a whole different dichotomy. Like, one thing that I noticed many times when I went out to date, over this past year, and just being out and open again, is I have that feeling of worrying about how people react when I'm like with somebody. I know I'm on a date with them, but trying not to be too close to them, trying not to, really, I guess, put off that sort of perspective that we're dating, in other words. And I think that's very, like, you're like constantly trying to walk on eggshells, trying to, okay, how are these people going to think about me, being with another guy? How are they going to see that? And this is especially true if you're from the South. Like, if you've grew up in an environment where it is very hostile, and where you just don't know how people are going to react, or you don't know what they're going to say or do, it's very hostile. And like what I've mentioned before, when I was younger, I had a lot of, slurs said at me, a lot of different things where I was called names and this and that. And so for me especially, I've been very cautious with kind of how I act in certain ways. And it's hard. A lot of people just don't understand that you have these unique challenges that not everybody else deals with. Like, worrying about what you're saying, how you're acting, as well as, how you can be close to another person in public, or really being cautious with how you act with that person. A lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand that constant sort of feeling of worry, and I just think that that's one of the barriers that really makes it difficult when you're in a relationship with somebody and you're in an area that may not be, as accepting, or may not be as open. And so you have these different challenges that you have to face. It's like a lot of times with family, even if I'm not in a relationship with family, or not, excuse me, even if I'm not in a relationship and I'm around family, the way that I act is kind of has to be put through a filter. A lot of the things that I say has to be put through a filter. A lot of things that I do is kind of put through a filter. And so there's just this interesting thing that comes with, being gay, and that you have to sort of go through these different mazes and obstacles in order to have a sense of, okay, am I going to be safe in this situation? Is this going to come across the wrong way? And it's very challenging. And that's one of the things that has very much disappointed me, or not disappointed me, but has basically brought me down, I guess you could say, because I know that my experience is not going to replicate like with somebody who's straight. Like, if I was to get married, like, how is that going to come across to family? How is that going to come across to everybody else? How is that whenever that event happens, if it does happen, how are they going to perceive that? Even though I'm going to be really happy and I'm going to be really, you know, basically just living openly and honest and happy with who I am, how is that going to come across to them? And again, I think that goes into the concept where we have to get out of constantly trying to please everybody else around us. And that's a hard thing, because I think that is very common with a lot of gay people, in that we do have this notion of wanting to basically be ideal for everybody else, basically wanting to fit in with the mold of society and with the expectations of our family. And so it becomes very hard to go against that grain and really live before ourselves while still having a relationship with the ones that we love, whether that be family, friends. There's this difference in how are they going to react, but we need to be able to live openly and honest with ourselves at the same time, rather than trying to live in the ideal way that they want us to live. So we have to be able to learn to know that they are not going to have the same perspective. They're not going to be as happy as we are. There's going to be a barrier, because they don't understand our situation. And that's the challenge. The unique challenges that comes with being gay is that you have to realize that not everybody is going to be happy for you. They're just not. As sad as that is, even the people that you're closest to. But I believe in a lot of ways, they still love you, but they're not going to understand the perspective that you're coming from. And that's, a sad thing to say, but you still, at the same time, cannot try to fit the mold for everybody else. You cannot do that, because it places a lot of mental stress on you. I've went through myself where I've tried to fit the mold of everything else around me and my family and everybody, of the expectations of the environment that I'm in. But the more that you get sucked into trying to fit into everybody else's ideal and basically what is considered quote unquote normal, it creates a lot of this mental strain where it gets to the point to where you break, and it's like you cannot go through your life trying to basically be a robot and be aligned with everybody's expectations, if that makes sense. So even though there are a lot of different barriers and a lot of different challenges that are unique when it comes to being in a relationship and being gay, there's still a lot of rewarding things that come from it, because you are living openly, you are living as yourself, you are living with being in a relationship with somebody you genuinely love, sexually, emotionally, and that connection is genuine and authentic. So that in itself is the reward, even when everything else around you does not accept you. You have that to look forward to. You have that fulfillment and that love to look forward to. So that's what I wanted to discuss. I feel like this is something that's very important to go over. And I think too, even for somebody who may not be gay, this is probably a perspective that they may not realize fully, or they may not truly think about, because they've not been in that experience. So I just think it's something to discuss too, because I don't want, anybody else to feel alone, because I know what that feels like, where you have all of these different obstacles that you have to jump through in order to be open and authentic in yourself. So again, it's a very unique situation that we're placed in. But definitely share what you guys think, what you guys have experienced, and what you feel has been the biggest challenge when it comes to being in a relationship and being gay, and trying to overcome a lot of these different obstacles and challenges that are unique to us. But thank you guys once again for watching. I hope that this video gave you a little bit of thought and gave you a little bit of feeling of not being as alone, because I do understand a lot of those barriers. I've been through a lot of different situations that have been challenging and unique to me, and so I feel like it's important to share those so that others can really know that they are not alone in the journey. But thank you guys once again for watching. Feel free to share your comments, and again, if you find these videos really helpful, definitely share them. But I do really appreciate you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.